mask and grin in darkness bright. I summon forth the one affright, mime of shadowed blight. Return to us this Halloween night.
If I were the devil, if I were the Prince of Darkness, I'd want to engulf the whole world in darkness. And I'd have 1/3 of its real estate and 4/5 of its population, but I wouldn't be happy until I'd seized the ripest apple on the tree. So I'd set out, about however necessary, to take over the United States. I'd subvert the churches first. I'd begin with a campaign of whispers. With the wisdom of a serpent, I would whisper to you as I whisper to Eve. Do as you please. To the young, I would whisper that the Bible is a myth. I would convince them that man created gods and the other way around. I would confide that what's bad is good and what's good is square. And the old, I would teach to pray after me, Our Father, which art in Washington. And then I'd get organized. I'd educate authors on how to make lurid literature exciting, so that anything else would appear dull and interesting. I'd threaten TV with dirtier movies and vice versa. I'd peddle narcotics to whom I could. I'd sell alcohol to ladies and gentlemen of distinction. I'd tranquilize the rest with pills. If I were the devil, I'd soon have families at war with themselves, churches at war with themselves, and nations at war with themselves, until each in its turn was consumed. And with promises of higher ratings, I'd have mesmerizing media fanning the flames. If I were the devil, I would encourage schools to redefine young intellects, but neglect to discipline emotions. Just let those run wild. Until before you knew it, you'd have to have drug-sniffing dogs and metal detectors at every schoolhouse door. Within a decade, I'd have prisons overflowing. I'd have judges promoting pornography. And soon as I could evict God from the courthouse, and then from the schoolhouse, and then from the House of Congress. And in his own churches, I would substitute psychology for religion and deify science. I would lure priests and pastors into misusing boys and girls and church money. And if I were the devil, I'd make the symbols of Easter an egg and the symbol of Christmas a bottle. If I were the devil, I'd take from those who have and give to those who want it until I killed the incentive of the ambitious. In other words, if I were the devil, I'd just keep right on doing what he's doing.
Hello everyone, welcome to Lord Pog Gaming, and I'm your humble host, Lord Pog. You honor me with your presence as we gear up for another game review.
I made you some content that I made you your favorite open wide.
And boy howdy, let me tell you, today's game was quite the surprise, as in I didn't realize just how brutal it was gonna be. Best I can compare it to is if the movie Terrifier and a comic book were combined, then turned into a video game, which is exactly what has happened here actually. Well, moving along then. The game I'm talking about is Massacre at the Mirage. Before we get into all that though, first let me do my sales pitch. If you're new to the channel, and I get you feeling a type of way, then I'd be honored by your subscribing.
Your daisy if you do.
And whether you're new or returning viewer, please like and share. It keeps the channel going and means the world to me. Plus, ring my bell for notifications and sign my guest book. My guest book being what I call the comments. Okay, that's all I'm gonna harp about that.
Well, I don't like to harp on a subject,
I don't
but
care. It comes with me, never have. That's why they call me gregarious.
And let's get on with the show. So I know it seems like I'm doing a lot of horror-themed videos right now, and that's mainly because I didn't get to really do any in October. My father, who I call Pop, passed away last month, or it would be October depending on when this video gets posted. I did a deeper explanation about all this on my Indica review, but regardless, October just wasn't a very good month for me. So I hope you Golden Wonders out there don't mind me scratching my horror itch now. Anyway, I don't want to bring down the mood by focusing too much on October. Instead, let's focus on why we're here, and that's for Massacre at the Mirage. A game developed by Tainted Pack and published by Assemble Entertainment, released in October of this year. Well, let me tell you, I'm gonna tell you, this game was a breath of fresh air for me. It seems like lately I can't play something without finding some deeper message that then leads me down the rabbit hole of inner reflection. Massacre at the Mirage let me turn off my brain for once and just have fun. No deeper message, no self-reflection, just blood and brutal fun. It's my understanding that Tainted Pack and Assemble Entertainment have made other horror-themed games, and if they are anything like this, then I'm in.
You bet your sweet bippy.
The player gets to play the game from several different perspectives, immersing the player in what is essentially a slasher flick. Having lived in the 80s, the nostalgia from the bright colors and the characters' personalities was on point for me. And yes, to date myself, for you Golden Wonders out there, I'm that old. Old enough to have lived during the 80s anyway.
No way.
The story is fun. It even caused me to jump a few times, especially in a few instances where the scares don't just jump out at you right away. The characters are likable enough, if not a little corny at times, but not insufferable. And that's a big plus in my book. Too much media has insufferable people in it these days. From what I've seen, there hasn't been any, quote, professional reviews on the game yet, which is fine by me since I trust actual gamers' opinions instead of IGN anyway. I mean, maybe one of the big sites reviewed it, but unless it jumps out at me or I find it through following a series of links, I'm probably not going to find it because I don't go to those sites enough to even bother. Most of the time, these so-called professional ratings are worth about as much as a handful of air in one hand, and the other hand is full of butt vomit.
It's a big old frozen chunk of poopy.
However, Steam has actual gamers' reviews, and with a few exceptions, Massacre's reception has been mostly positive. One of the reviews nailed my sentiments exactly when they said, super fun, very imaginative kills. A lot of kills. Not much more to do other than get killed. Loved it. For the few less positive reviews, I can see where they're coming from, since I myself have a few beefs.
You don't want no beef? You don't want no beef?
That I think Tainted Pack could improve on. I know I've been singing Massacre at the Mirage's praises so far, but these are just a few minor issues, and I'll get to them shortly.
Hold your horses.
Before giving my small critiques, I want to say that, in the end, I personally gave Massacre at the Mirage an 8 out of 10. The slasher clown is freaky, the comic book style cell shading is pretty, it's a beautiful game in a comic book animated sort of way, and unless you're like me, who is apparently so pretentious that I mistook the fact that some of the graphics being blurry was artistic expression, not that maybe I needed to go into the menu and adjust the graphics quality.
Freaking idiot!
So I ended up playing 3/4 of the game with certain objects and such having a blur on them, before figuring out that no, I just need to go into the menu and up the graphics quality. In my defense, I really did think it was just the direction of the art style, saving on time and work by giving some things the vague shape of what it's supposed to be, and having the art of it just sort of messy like a Van Gogh. To be fair, lots of games back in the day did this. Anything from The Legend of Zelda to some parts of Final Fantasy VII. So I just thought the developers were going all in on the retro vibe. I was wrong. So for any of you Golden Wonders out there who give this game a try, if some of the background or objects look blurry, you can fix that in the game menu. For those of you who knew this was an option and did it automatically, well, congratulations.
Check out the big brain on Brad.
Nah, I love y'all. I'm just playing. Seriously. The score is just like something one would expect out of an 80s slasher, with that techno upbeat chilling vibe. As the player navigates each character's story at the Mirage Theater and the surrounding area, the music does such a good job at heightening the tension the player feels as the killer clown stalks around just out of sight, creating an ominous tension that in of itself acts as a jump scare. It too has a nostalgia all its own, but there's one aspect to that nostalgia that perhaps could be argued is the wrong kind. My biggest gripes with the game are minor to be sure, and in no way affect whether or not I'd recommend playing Massacre at the Mirage. In fact, I highly recommend it. But be warned, it's not a kid's game. So if you have little ones, I highly suggest not playing it in front of them. It's $9.99 on Steam, but thanks to those who have ran things like the novel 1984, which is a horror show of a different kind, times can be tough money-wise right now. So I completely understand if that's just unfeasible to spend right now, especially with Thanksgiving and Christmas just around the corner. But I still suggest playing it by any means necessary. The biggest issue with the game I had was how it kept knocking me out of the nostalgia with minor inconsistencies in the dialogue and music and aesthetic at times. For instance, at one point you play as a gas station attendant who sells a man a pack of smokes for $6 and some change, which is ludicrous in the 80s. See, I used to smoke in my younger days, and I know for a fact that a pack of smokes used to cost me $1.10. And I distinctly remember my pop being able to buy McDonald's, fill up the car, and take us to the movies on $25. I know Massacre takes place in 1988, but I didn't start smoking till the 90s, y'all. So that means my pricing is still considerably lower than $6. By the time I quit, they were up to $6 a pack, and that was like in the late 2000s. So yeah, that's an issue I have, because when you're trying to gain those nostalgia points, perhaps it doesn't hurt to do a little economical homework. The idea of cigs costing that in those days would be unheard of. Then there's the music, which I loved, save for one problem. See, while I saw the game being promoted as a survival horror, it's not really. It's more like a walking simulator / visual novel with some mini games and puzzles thrown in for good measure, which is fine because it's bloody fun. But during the mini game of serving customers from the snack bar at the Mirage Theater, there's an absolute banger playing on the radio that I was jamming to, honestly, until it got too clever, I guess. I'm honestly not trying to be a stick in the mud.
You're a bit late for that!
But in the developer's attempt at throwing in an Easter egg, they broke the immersion for me by having the music suddenly start quoting lines from Rob Zombie's House of a Thousand Corpses, which is a movie I'm quite fond of.
I love movies!
So it's not the movie that bothers me as much as the year in which the movie was actually made. An argument could be made that House of a Thousand Corpses takes place in the 70s, so technically it could be a shared universe, and that makes it fair use for this scenario. Except for the fact that the line they use as the quote during the song, if we are going strictly by the laws of shared universe standards, the quote is spoken during the movie at a time when the only people who could have heard it and then used it in a song would either be dead or in Mexico with no inclination of using it in a song, meaning that it was meant to be an Easter egg for horror fans and not a shared universe idea. So that, in fact, couldn't exist in 1988 since A Thousand Corpses released in the early 2000s. Also, one of the people dress up like Scorpion for Mortal Kombat, and that I don't think came out in the late 80s. I think it came out in the early 90s. Actually, that might not be a fair thing. I should have done a little bit more homework on that, but it did still bother me. So by now, you Golden Wonders might be asking, Pog, what difference does that all make?
Oh, well, allow me to retort.
I said these were minor issues and should in no way determine whether any of you play Massacre or not. However, I will say that the final issue I have is a bit more important and is what ultimately made me give the game an 8 out of 10 instead of a 9 out of 10. And that's the linear plot. Now, I'm not going to spoil the game. What I am going to do, though, is give a quick rundown of said plot.
Here we go again.
And then better explain my stance on this. Massacre at the Mirage takes place Halloween night, 1988, in the town of Crimson Ridge. The player takes control of several characters who live and work at some of the different establishments of the picturesque town, with the main characters being the ones who work at the Mirage. Art, the...
Hey, Sweden! Not Swedish, Mac, the Norwegian.
I mean, a no-named killer clown begins to stalk the characters of the game. It really does make the player feel like they are part of an old 80s slasher flick, but the problem is it's too linear, meaning that whatever happens, happens, and there ain't nothing anyone can do about it, which to a degree makes sense, as it's not exactly a AAA developed game or anything. Yet there is at least one final girl in the game. So they could have branched out a little more with her story. Not to mention her design is a little plain, and while the final girl isn't typically the most gorgeous woman in the movie, they at least tend to have a classic beauty behind them.
I know I have. I've just had the greatest experience and I've made the greatest...
While our final girl in this, not so much. And before I get misunderstood here, I'm not saying she needs to be unrealistic. Although realistically, there are amazingly beautiful people in this world.
Hi, I'm Alexander Daddario, and welcome.
So that argument has never held water. But I'm not trying to cause an issue here.
Sit down, you're rocking the boat.
What I'm more referring to is how our final girl needed to stand out more, but doesn't at all. The third main protagonist, Phil, has more attention put into his detail than Nika, our final girl, does. And the same goes for Ben, the second main protagonist. Ben isn't much to look at either, and that astounds me. Again, I know this is, for all intents and purposes, an indie game, so Tainted Pact doesn't have a massive budget. That's why you focus, though, your biggest efforts on your main assets, with good modeling for your main characters, and perhaps multiple endings for your final girl. Giving the player multiple endings for the final girl does add more replay value to the game. And that's not to say there isn't some replay ability here. But if I'm being honest, the minigame extra feature is okay at best. Basically, it's just playing the minigame of serving customers from the snack bar, but that snack bar is located in some extra dimensional pocket matinee, which would be a lot cooler if you earn more money doing it and everything wasn't so expensive to buy, because you have to earn money to buy special things because you're trying to decorate the matinee. I played it just once, and it ran for about 10 minutes, and I only earned about 50 points.
You serious?
When anything worth buying is 100 to 150 points, which means just to earn enough points to buy anything worthwhile, you're gonna play a monotonous minigame for 30 minutes. There are items you can purchase that will earn you more points quicker, but that'll take you 20 minutes. And again, the minigame isn't that fun. It's more or less to appeal to the completionist in some people. That's why Massacre at the Mirage for me only earned an 8 out of 10. But that's subjective. Despite my complaints, make no doubt about it, I thought this was a really fun game. The clown is well done, creepy as all get out, and for me stole the whole thing. So if you like to be creeped out, jump scared, and enjoy a bloody good time, go find a way to play Massacre at the Mirage. I highly recommend it. I want to thank everyone who stuck it out this long. Seriously, y'all can't even begin to imagine how blessed I am by you Golden Wonders out there. Please, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Leave a like and share to help me grow this channel. And sign the guest book and ring my bell for notifications. And before you go, I want to remind everyone that I know I can be a bit to handle, and that not all of my views may be shared by all of you out there. Despite all of that, I want you Golden Wonders to know that at the end of the day, none of that matters. Because whatever we may disagree on when it comes to real world divides, in gaming, we share a love, and that brings us together on common ground. So all are welcome here at this channel. And I love all of you, and would fight any horde or foe by your side. You're always welcome in my lobby. Y'all come back now. Stay golden.